49ers training camp day 3 is in the books. And as we know, the 49ers quarterbacks are front and center. So, what we are going to do is we are going to recap the reports that came out from training camp practices today that was only open to the media. So, let's get into some of the reports. We'll start off with this report from Matt Barrows. Starting off, he says Brock Purdy began to sharpen as practice went on today, and he finished 6 of 12. Sam Darnold had some of the nicest throws for the second straight day. Purdy went 6 of 12, Darnold 3 of 6, Lance 2 of 5, Allen 1 of 4. If you're new to this channel, I am not big on scouting off of those numbers. Those numbers don't mean a whole lot to me because there's a ton of context that is baked into every hit and every miss. Drops happen, things happen. So potential sacks happen. So I don't take these numbers really to be all that impactful because again, being at the last training camp practice the past 2 days, the numbers haven't been great, but you can totally take away what is actually happening at practice. And again, to recap what happened yesterday, Brock Purdy had a little shaky practice. But if you're evaluating it through the proper lens, you're evaluating it through the sense of just how does his arm look? That's all we really cared about, at least some people. And today was about improvement, stacking, getting better. From all reports, whether Barrows, I think I saw David Lombardi, um, I think even Matt Mayoko, you've seen it from a couple people that all have the same story, basically stating that Brock Purdy definitely looked better today. And he took those steps forward that, remember, if you were on the show yesterday, we said that was to be expected. The first day wasn't the litmus test we're looking for. We're looking to stack days. We're looking to stack reps. And apparently with more time, he has taken those steps forward, which is exactly what any reasonable minded person who understands football evaluation would expect. So, heading into this particular practice day 3, these were the things that we were looking for, specifically for Trey Lance. Trey Lance did not have a good practice yesterday. On top of not having a good practice yesterday, he did not take a lot of reps either because he was splitting primarily with Darnold. So the things that we were hoping for to see from Trey Lance today was him to rebound, take a step forward, and continue to take those steps and improve, just like we saw from Brock Purdy, who didn't have the best practice yesterday. So from all accounts that we are getting from training camp, it does appear Trey Lance didn't have the best practice. Right now, I'm only finding a detailed kind of situation right here from David Lombardi. David Lombardi says Trey Lance's best throw of the day was his only completion, an intermediate crosser to Tay Martin. So, again, Matt Barrows says there's 2 completions. That's why I don't. That's why when I go to training camp, I don't personally chart numbers. I just pay attention to what specifically happens in the play. But I digress. Let's talk about what Lombardi had to say. He said, but the major concern for the 49ers remains Lance's wildly spotty short game. He threw one short attempt for Braden Willis into the turf and another short throw behind Jordan Mason. Lance's body language was not positive after either miss. We've seen similar inaccuracies sprinkled throughout warmups. He must be more consistent on these throws, bread and butter throws, to earn more of Shanahan's trust. And that is kind of consistent with what I saw yesterday from Trey Lance. Trey Lance missed a layup throw to Cameron Latu right in the flat and almost threw an interception. Now, again, these guys are allowed to make mistakes. It's practice. I'm not going to kill these guys for making mistakes or having bad throws or incompletions. Just the same for Brock Purdy yesterday. I didn't kill Brock Purdy, and I'm not going to kill Trey either. But now we're starting to build up a case and stack days. So what does that tell us? Basically, what we're hearing is it sounds like Trey has now stacked 2 bad days of practice. I won't say bad days, underwhelming days of practice. Brock Purdy had, by some people, a underwhelming practice yesterday, but by all accounts, it sounds like he definitely sharpened up today. And then we get to Sam Darnold, who had the best practice of all quarterbacks yesterday. It appears he's still on track, showing off the arm talent that made him the number 3 overall pick when he came out of the draft. Lombardi also kind of charted his throws that he made, said, money, 20-yard delivery on a skinny post to Elijah Mitchell. Nice play call for Shanahan. Next, he says crisp crosser to Jennings, who was well covered but made a one-handed grab in stride near the end of practice. Darnold has seemed more settled by the day. And if you go back to Darnold's first day of training camp practice, he did not look good. He did not look good at all. From start to finish, both team periods and 7-on-7s, Darnold did not look good, but he made big strides yesterday from my eyes, and it does sound like, again, from multiple different levels, that ascension is continuing. So again, I know this is a hard conversation for a lot of people because people have rooting interests in which quarterback is successful. But I have to reiterate to you guys how I evaluate football and how these things stack together for me. You can't come away from one training camp practice and have a definitive take on anything. All you can say is, this is the reality of the situation for this particular day. Now we stack it and compile it, put it on a timeline, and piece it together. So now we have 3 practices of larger sample size that we can now put on a timeline and start to see who is ascending, who's taking steps forward, and who is taking steps backwards. Brandon Allen, by all accounts, appeared to have another underwhelming practice. So, again, Brandon Allen continues to get reps. I'm still in the camp of Purdy, Darnold, and Lance should be getting all the reps, really, to be honest. But again, Kyle's got his own plan, and he's going to do what he needs to do to figure out how this thing works out. But again, it's just we're starting to get the pieces. Every day is a piece to the puzzle. We now have 3 pieces to the puzzle of a very decently sized puzzle. So anyone trying to tell you this is what it is day in and day out of training camp practices is doing you a disservice. Take it day by day with a grain of salt, put every piece together, and by the time we get to pads, we will have a baseline, and then everything resets. When we get to pads, that is the best evaluation we are going to get up until joint practices. Then when we get joint practices with the Raiders, then we'll get much better pieces to work with. And then we will be able to build the picture literally by each individual piece. My biggest caution is to just take each and every day as it is. It's a process. There are multiple days of training camp, multiple preseason games, and each one contributes to the piece of painting the full picture. The full picture wasn't made on the first day of training camp. The full picture wasn't made on the first day of Brock Purdy's return. The full picture wasn't made because Trey Lance had a couple struggles. Trey Lance could completely rebound and come back and shock everyone. The thing is people wanted to see Trey Lance shock everyone from the start. So he's a little bit behind the 8 ball, but that doesn't mean the story is over or the process is over. Trey Lance could absolutely take steps forward. These other quarterbacks could take a step back. We don't know. That's why it's training camp, and that's why you trust the process. That's why I love football. That's why I love evaluating football, because you don't evaluate football in a vacuum. You evaluate through each individual scenario, and you put all those pieces together, and you are able to track and build a case for each individual player, and you don't have to compare them to each other. You can scout individually of each player and what they provide, and you don't have to do any comparison You really don't. So the biggest thing that we continue to move through with these quarterback conversations and considerations is that I understand that if you have a rooting interest in any one of these quarterbacks and you don't hear the best reports from these guys, it's you want to know because you believe in what they're bringing to the table, but it's not being given back to you. So are you going to question yourself or are you going to question the report? I would just say this: keep an open mind regardless of which quarterback you want to succeed. Right now, it really doesn't matter. All we're trying to figure out is at a baseline, where are these guys at and who is going to improve and stack days. That's it. So that's what I'm specifically going to do. Not everyone's going to do it that way, and that's fine. Everyone has their own way of going about this. I'm just being explicit and letting you guys know how I am reading this entire quarterback situation. No more practices until Sunday. I will see you guys in Santa Clara on Sunday for practice. So I will be there and be able to give you firsthand accounts of everything that I saw, and we will be able to break it all down and we will go from there. As always, make sure to like and subscribe for more training camp updates.